can see the TV.
Should we start? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم اخرجني من ظلمات الوهم واكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا ابواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. Inshallah, you're all well. So we're going to start our session. So some of you were not here last week, so we're combining the AQAM study circle with the graduates class. So we have some students from madrasa who have graduated, so we're going to have something extra for them. And the aim is inshallah to have the first year house material that is taught. So what I learned, inshallah we're going to try and cover that in these sessions. So these are some of the topics that I listed to start off with, because it's important to have understanding of these topics. And last week we looked at purpose of life, and inshallah we're going to build on and go into aqaid topics, and from there go into a bit of Arabic grammar, Quranic Arabic, and after that any topics that inshallah people suggest. So we have AQAM, we also have history, and we have Quran, Tajweed that we did in the first year. So any of those topics or any other topic that we feel, akhlaq is always there, so we can have some akhlaq topics as well. So inshallah we can build on that. Some people asked for video recording, some people missed last time, so inshallah the lessons will be recorded as well, and it will be on AQAM YouTube channel. So if anybody misses, they can also catch up from there inshallah. So we begin inshallah. So as it is a lesson, I always, when I do a lesson, I do a recap of what we did last week. So then people who are new, they also get a brief on what we have done. And people who are here, it's a test of knowledge as well. So inshallah, I'll start off with you guys, open to everyone. So what is the question that we discussed? What is the purpose of knowledge? So if somebody can briefly explain what did we discuss on that question? Anything that we remember? Yes, please.
You mentioned how humans are mentioned as the best creation of Allah, and so even when we go to heaven, that's also a creation of Allah. Humans are the greatest creation, and heaven shouldn't be our goal. Our goal should be to reach like the closest to Allah, and we should always start with the intention of representing Allah.
Excellent, very good. So I hope you heard that. So we mentioned different goals, and we said we can have different goals, and one of the goals can be, thank you, Sarji. One of the goals that a lot of mu'mineen have, or people have, the Muslims have, is heaven. But even heaven we're not satisfied with, because heaven is a creation of God, and we are a creation of God, and we are beyond heaven. We are better than heaven. We are more honored than heaven. So we cannot aim for something which is lower than us. And then we go for something higher, which is the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Very good. So that was this diagram that we discussed with. So we said we can have different goals. We can have a goal of study, we can have work or wealth, family. So as we want different levels, so first we want to get like school level education, then degree, then master's, PhD, and the same with work. You just want to find a job, any job that you can get, and then you want to have a work with good pay, good salary, good position, and so on. And the same with wealth as well. You never get satisfied. Why? Because we said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in us a desire which is never satisfied. It is unlimited, and it can only be satisfied by something unlimited. And the only thing which is unlimited is God. So we are seeking God, and we are trying to get the qurb ilahi, or proximity to God. And we mentioned some of the ayahs in the Quran. We said there are more than 70 ayahs which talk about our return to God, such as this one, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. فَطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. The natural way of Allah which He has instilled in all people. This is our fitra that Allah has instilled in us, and this one, وَإِلَيْهِ الْمَسِيرُ. And to Allah is your return. So like this ayahs, وَقَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. All these ayahs tell us that we have to return to Allah. So in this world we are temporary, we are here only for a short amount of time. So that's what we discussed last time. And to finish it off, so we made sure that our main goal and our main purpose is nothing but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But what about these other goals that we can have in life? Like we have family, we have wealth, we have work, we have study. What about all of them? Do we just ignore them? And do we just focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time? Do we just worship, just pray, just fast? And we said, no, that's not the case. So the aim is to understanding your starting point. So we need to have our goal. And our goal should be nothing but God. The main goal, the main purpose should be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The main goal should be try to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once we have that direction, so once we know our goal, then we will have a direction. And we are in the right direction, then we need to try to move towards that direction with the right energy, with the right enthusiasm, and with the right intention. If our direction is wrong, so if our goal and purpose is not Allah, if it's in the opposite direction, no matter how hard we try, we will never end up there. Yeah, so we made an example of a world. So if our direction is say for London and we start heading towards Scotland, no matter how fast or slow we go that direction, we'll never reach London. Yeah, but if we're in the right direction towards London, and even if you're walking, we will get there, but maybe a little later than driving or taking plane. So we said we need to have the right direction. And then intention for every deed has to be qurbatan ilallah, as mentioned by sister. Yeah. So it is important that we have that deed. So whatever you do, if you have the qurbatan ilallah, that's studying, you do it qurbatan ilallah. Working, you do it qurbatan ilallah. Spending time, you do it qurbatan ilallah. And we mentioned something as simple as putting our clothes on, yeah, eating food. Whatever you do it with the intention of getting closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You do it with the intention that you're doing for the sake of Allah. Whatever you love, you do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you do that, if you spend time with your family, with your children, because of the sake of Allah, that becomes ibadat, that becomes worship, and you get reward for it. So whatever you do, if you're studying, and you do it with the intention of for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your studying becomes ibadat. So as a student, our teachers used to say that you don't have to spend the night praying, all night praying. If you do the qurbatan of illallah and you spend all your night studying for your exams, for other subjects, and you're learning knowledge, that is ibadat. Yeah, because you're doing for the sake of Allah. So that's what we mentioned. And finally, to repeat and renew our intentions. We need to do it every day, every time, in the morning, at night time. If we do it regularly, we repeat it, then it stays fresh and we know what we are doing. And over the time, we will not get misled by shaitan and other goals around here and there. As we know that our biggest enemy is shaitan, and he will never stop misguiding us. So he will always try, even he knows that he won't be able to misguide some people like the good mu'mineen or the prophets, but he still never stops trying. Even to the prophets and imams, shaitan has come and tried to misguide them on different occasions, but he knows that he's not going to be able to succeed, but he still does try. Yeah, so we need to do that as well, inshallah. Any questions? No? Okay. So, note 1, important note, as I said, this is also for graduates. So there will be an assessment at the end of each module. So when we finish something, we will do an assessment to just check how people are progressing. And the other people, the adults who are participating as study circle or just general, it's up to you. If you wanted to participate in that assessment, it's your choice. So I leave that to you. So if you want to participate, you can make notes. But to make it easy, so I will put the notes on the slides on Google Drive, and I will share the link on our page, the WhatsApp page or group, and then you can have access on there as well. So you don't have to write too much, but if you want to write something extra, that's up to you, inshallah. And thirdly, these are the books that we will cover on the Aqaid side. So we have the Islamic belief system and the lessons on Islamic belief. Both of these are by Dr. Muhammad Ali Shumari. So he's a good scholar, famous scholar. He's in UK, and so these are his books, and inshallah we'll cover this. The book is, the first one is quite thick and it has a lot of details. We're not going to do every detail because we have different level of people. We have young ones and up to elders. So we are going to do a summarize. I'm going to try my best to summarize it in a way that it helps all of us to understand. But for those of you who want to read extra, you can buy these books online and inshallah read it in your own time. It's got a lot of research tips as well and questions for us to reflect and ponder and to go into more details of each topic that Doctor discusses in his books, or Sheikh Shumali discusses in his books. So we'll start off with this one, our beautiful universe. So when we look at the universe is a beautiful and amazing. It is full of wonders and dazzling views. As you can see in these diagrams, the stars, the moons, the planets, the days and nights, how the human is born, and you can see the creation of the human beings. In Surah Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about some of these signs, and he talks about that how we created you, how we create the day and night, how is the sea split, and then after each one of these he says, then which of your Lord's signs will you deny? For example, he talks about the mountains, he talks about the sea split, he talks about how the ship, which is heavy metal, or even a boat, with people on it, weight, how does it sail on the water? Have you ever thought about it? Then which of your Lord's signs will you deny? We have the earth, the same earth, but it grows all these different vegetables, fruits that we eat. So then which of your Lord's signs will you deny? And if you look at the universe, if you look at within us, Imam Ali alayhi salam says that if you look within yourself, there's a whole universe inside you. So then which of your Lord's signs will you deny? And we have many other verses in the Quran. There's 27 other verses highlighted in that link, which I will share with you. In the Quran, in various places, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us that we should think and reflect. Allah does not say, and it starts off even telling off people. For example, at the time of the Arabs used to say that we follow our forefathers. They have been following this religion, so they cannot be wrong. They have been following for so long. Allah says, no, don't do that. Allah encourages each and every person to think, to reflect, and reach a conclusion based on our intellectual, based on our aql, based on our thinking, based on our pondering. So when we do that, then Allah knows for sure that if you do that, then you will reach the truth, which is nothing but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we look at the wonders of the world, things that exist in the world, we can have three perspectives. So perspective number one is the immense size and grandeur, which is how big things are. So we can see from these diagrams, we have the big buildings, which are the creation of the human beings. We can see how amazing they are, the different design and how big they are. So this is all built by humans in terms of the ability of the humans, that as time went by, what kind of buildings they create. And now in China, they're making new things. Even in UK, they're now making taxis which will fly soon. So we're going to have all of this. So these are all the creation of minds. And these creations, although we are creating it, but it is Allah who has created us. So Allah is telling us to reflect on all of these. When we look at the planetary system, how it all works, when we look at the stars, how it all goes, and if we study the universe, we can understand that how big the universe is and how it goes. It's not just illusion that these things that we have, that we see. We have stars and sun, and if we just look at this, they say that in the book it mentions that there are some stars that we see now, but it has disappeared thousands of years ago. Why do we see it still now? Why do we still see it? Because the radiant of it still the light of it still travels, and its distance is so far that it takes that long distance to reach us. They said that it would, in 1957 or 87, I think 87, the scientists discovered a star which had exploded, and it had exploded 170,000 years before that they discovered this. So these things, then when we look at the universe, on one side how big it is, just our galaxy, and we go beyond that, we don't know how big it is. The scientists haven't managed to reach all to the end. On the other end, we also have small, when we have particles, they go very small and very small. The more the scientists they try to find using telescopes, microscopes, The more they go into it, the more they find that there's more layers underneath it. The more they go down, the more layers they find underneath it as they go down. And it goes smaller and smaller and smaller. So both sides, as it goes small and small, you find that there's more particles, and it goes big and big, you find more and more. Yeah. So this shows us how amazing and big our universe is. Yeah. It said that the sun, although when we look at, or when we just look at it from the outside, it doesn't look that big. It just looks like a small circle. Yeah. But it says that the sun is 109 times bigger than Earth. Yeah. So 109 times in terms of the diameter. So imagine how big the Earth is now. We can't travel from here to the other side of the world that easily. So it's 109 times bigger than the Earth. And then Sun, if you say, okay, that's 109 times bigger, that's so big. On the other hand, they say there's the stars which exist, which is 650 times bigger than the Sun. Yeah. So imagine the size of it. Imagine the capacity of it. The effect that it has in the universe. So this gives us some understanding of the grandeur of the universe that we live in. The second perspective is the complexity and stunning beauty of the creatures. So when we look here, we start off with us, humans. When we look inside us, yeah, those who are doctors, they understand this better than me. So all of these different organs, how they come together, how they work, how they function, all of them have this nice way of working together in a harmony. So how did all of this come about? How come all of these are working so nicely? And when we look around us, like you see the last picture, when I googled nice places in the earth, that picture came. That's Kashmir. That doesn't look less than heaven. So heaven on earth, you can say. And all of these different animals, beautiful animals, all of them have something about them that we can see and understand how complex it is and how beautiful it is. When we look at the human cells, they say that there is 100 trillion cells in the human body. Each one of them are alive, each one of them breathe, and each one of them have a function, and they all do their job that they are designed for to do. Yeah. So when we look at these cells, like how do they all work, how do they all function? And we have these two of cells. Again, the doctors would know better, but this is what I have learned. So you have thymus and the T cells. So the T cells are like army cells, and then they try and find enemies within our body, the cells which are weak, or the enemies that attack our bodies. So once they find that, they send that to the thymus, and the thymus is called like the graveyard of cells. This is where they're destroyed and buried, so they got rid of. Yeah, so we have these cells which have function, and they deal with it. They say that when, for example, when doctors do organ transplant, because the organ is new to the body, the T cells treat that as an enemy, and they start attacking that. That's why the doctors give it drugs. So then the T cells become weak, and while they're weak, the organ tries to adjust, and the body gets used to the organ and identifies it as something being useful and familiar. And then when the T cells pick up its strength again, then it will not attack it anymore, and it will use it in a good way. So reflecting all of these and understanding this helps us a lot. And when we look at the ants, for example, they say you ain't seen nothing yet. That was a joke of the ants. But the ants, although it's the tiny creatures, I remember when we were young, we used to just kill them, and we used to also call the good ants and the bad ants. The brown ones were the good ones and the black ones were the bad ones. But maybe that's how a child think at that time. But when we look at how the animals work, for us, it might just see a small creature which has no value, which has no purpose in life, but they have a purpose. They all have a role. They say that those who have done the ants study, they said that the ants are very hardworking and team-working and strong animal. They work in groups, so they have different ranking. So you have the queen ant, which lays egg and gives birth to the baby. You have the worker ants, which collects food and protects the baby. You have the gardener ants, which grows food. And then you have the harvester ant, which collects the food. You have the army ant, which travels in groups, and it tries to protect the other ants. And it says that when these army ants, when they're traveling in different places, like you can see this diagram, and when they can't reach from one point to another, they start climbing on each other and make a bridge. And then all the ants that are there, they're going to cross over them, and then they pass, and some of them in the middle, they might fall off and die because of that. So they sacrifice themselves as well. So they have this idea of sacrificing themselves for their community. And they say that all of them are hardworking, and their whole life is used in the effort to try and serve their community that they have. So we as a community, inshallah, I think we can learn that from the ants as well, that we work for our community, we try to give each other time, and we spend time together, mashallah. Our community is growing day by day. So inshallah, we work and we look towards the future, and that is the future of the youth as well. That's why we're going to have some youth events, inshallah, slowly. And they'll also have actually a future ant as well, future awareness ant. So there's one ant, they say, it hangs down from the leg, and then when they get the food, so it stores the food in the stomach. I don't know how they manage to do this. It's all Allah's miracle. So they stores nectar in the food, but it doesn't digest that food. And when the time of poverty comes on ants, that nectar starts giving takes the nectar. That ant starts giving the nectar out to the other ants from his stomach. Yeah. So that's the story. So he acts as a storage. That ant acts as a storage for the rest of them. So we can see that all of this, mashallah, is God's creation, and if we study them, it makes us ponder that there is something. The third perspective is the harmony and existence between creatures and components of this world. So we have this diagram which shows the different things around the world. So coexistence in units and space. And little examples that we have is the shark and remora. So it says that the remora attaches itself to the shark, and it gets free and safe right on the shark. And while it is on the shark, it also eats off the excess from the shark, so the shark gets cleaned off of the harmful material. So they both work close hand in hand, although other animals and even humans would not dare to come anywhere near the shark. But this remora gets a free ride on the shark whenever it wants. Yeah, so we can see how these animals work together. Another example is this shrimp and goby fish. The blind shrimp and the goby fish. So the blind shrimp attaches itself to the goby, and the goby guides the blind shrimp around in the search of the food. And whenever there's danger, the shrimp also the goby also informs the shrimp, so they get away from it. And in return, as the shrimp is moving around, it makes a sort of a furrow or a dig in the ground, and that becomes the inhabitants or the place of living for the goby. So they work in that sense. They help each other in that aspect. And we have other many examples that we can see in the world. I don't know if this one is working. You can see that that animal is changing color. That's not animation that I made, but that kind of animals exist. There's like this animal, this parrot. So there's animals depending on the environment, depending on the danger that they face, they change their color. Some of them change their shape, and some of them do like this, they do camouflage. Yeah, so wherever it goes, it changes its color and shape to match with the environment that it is sitting on. So all of this is protecting them from the danger that they have. It is helping them to survive. And we have this frog. It is a colorful frog. It's very beautiful. Yeah, but they say nobody dares to go near it because it has poison. It's a poisonous frog, and its poison is so lethal that it can kill up to 50 people. So all of these different creatures, different creations that we see in the world, it makes people wonder, it makes people reflect, and that is what we are meant to do. So we can reflect on the world in these aspects, and using this as our basis, we can build our proof for existence of God. Any questions? Anybody would like to share any proof they have of the existence of God? So what they believe in that helps them to believe that a God exists?
Because you are speaking.
Huh?
Because you are speaking.
Subhanallah, yes. Correct? So seeing people alive, seeing people speak, that is a proof that there is a God for them or for us. Any other ideas?
Uniqueness of everyone. Every fingerprint is different. Every
Very
person
good.
is different. This is uniqueness in everything and everything.
Subhanallah. Yes, uniqueness in every human being. The fingerprints that we have, we never reflect. They all look the same in the eye, but they're not the same when they get tested. Yeah. Our eyes. Yeah. How they work.
Creation of a human being.
Yeah. The creation of human being. Yes. Anything else? Yeah. Different fingerprints. DNA. Yes. Yeah. The proof. We have many proofs. Yeah. Blood groups. The proof for existence of God in according to a story in the book that students learn in madrasa, it says that for each person it can be the proof that they want, as long as they understand from that there is some creator, and they link it to God. That is good enough for them to be on the path of God. In the story it mentions that there was an old lady, and I'm sure the madrasa kids will remember. There's an old lady, she was spinning like a spinning wheel, and she was just spinning that. And the Prophet comes to her and asks her that, do you believe in God? Or what's something like that, I forgot now the story. So she says, do you believe in God? She says, yes, I believe in God. And then the Prophet says, can you explain how you believe in God? So she stops for a while, and then afterwards she says that for me, I don't understand all these complicated things. But when I spin this around, I think that if I stop, this thing will not spin. Yeah. So if this is something so simple that it's dependent on me and it doesn't spin, then how can this whole world run without somebody managing it? And that is good enough for me to understand that there is a God. So it is like that. So the way for us as well, we have the blood group, we have the fingerprints, we have the uniqueness, yeah, all of this, or the way we are alive, the way we're breathing, yeah, that should tell us that there is some creator. Yeah. So these are the arguments, two arguments that we quickly have a look. So the first one is argument from design. That's what it's called. So the order in the creation, as we mentioned, all of these different things. So the amazing and marvelous creation indicates that there is a creator. So when we reflect at ourselves, when we reflect at the universe, all of these things, they are so marvelous, they're so amazing, and they're working in a perfect order. Yeah. So there's two premises. The first one is the existence of this order in the nature. Yeah, so how the cells work, how they adapt, how our body works, and all of these different uniqueness, and then all of these planets, the way they're rotating, yeah, the way they're sort of they're spaced out, they never collide, they never sort of move out, or they never, for example, the sun doesn't burn us, and all of these order tells us that that's one side, that there is order in the nature. And the second thing, we reflect on it rationally, that all of these things, if something as simple as a watch or something else like even a book or something else as a pen, yeah, it cannot come about without somebody thinking about it and making it, then how come all of these marvelous and amazing creations come about without an intelligent designer? So this argument helps us to conclude that there must be a wise and intelligent creator or designer behind this universe, and that we refer to as God. So that's the first argument. The second argument, which we touched upon last week, was the innate and intuition knowledge of God, which is our fitra. So this is something that is given by God to everyone. So it is a distinctive spiritual capacity embedded by God in every human being. Yeah, so it is something that's embedded in every human being we have, whether Muslims or non-Muslims. We have two things, which is intuition and inclination. So there's a little difference between both. Inclinations exist in animal as well. So that's like self-preservation or sexual desires. So that's the animalistic side that we share with the animals. And then the intuition, I've typed that the same twice. So intuition, the human intuitions or inclinations, is to do with seeking God, is searching for God. Yeah, so we have both of them. We have the animal side and we have the human intuition, where we seek God and where we search for God. And we, as we said last time as well, that when we look in the history, humans have always tried to worship something. they always try to search for something and worship something. They may have worshipped wrong things, but they have always searched and worshipped things. And when we look in this among the scientists as well now, according to the research which was mentioned in the book, majority of the scientists are also believers. Maybe not Muslims, but believers of different faiths and God as well. There's only limited numbers which who do not believe in God. So if we are all born with this, then why do we go away from our nature? So if it's something within us and everybody seeks it, then why do we go away from it? So there's many reasons for that, and some of them are as mentioned on the board. So the first one, flawed presentation of religion concepts. So it depends on the environment we grow in, the place that we learn. If we learn something wrong and we accept that as the truth, we may be following that, or sometimes it might be that we get something and it doesn't go with our intellect, and then we get put off by religion and we completely ignore it. Ignorance, so we don't have enough knowledge, we don't seek knowledge, we don't gain the knowledge, we're not in the right environment where we learn. Indulging in sin, the more we sin, the more our fitra gets corrupted. So our fitra is like a bright light, and they said that every time we sin, a black spot appears. So the more we sin, that gets darker and darker, and we won't be able to see. And arrogance, if we build arrogance, sometimes when we have arrogance, if we know something is the truth as well, even if we know, because of our arrogance, we would not accept it. We don't want to say, I don't want to hear from that person even if it's right. Yeah. But Imam Ali alayhi salam says that hear the truth, look at the truth, at the words, not the person who's uttering it. Yeah. So if something is the truth, you take the truth even if it's from the enemy. You follow that. And blind devotion, following things blindly, is not in the Shia fiqh and the Shia theology that we should not do. So we should seek the truth and we should search for it. We should ask questions. And if you don't find your answer, you ask by asking one person, then you ask another person, and you keep searching until you find your answers and you're satisfied with what you wanted, inshallah. Any questions?
So, a lot of people neglect knowledge of God conveniently because of the theory of evolution. What is our sort of what is should evolution be dissociated with Islam when it is scientifically proven that evolution is happening? What's the counter argument for it?
Yeah, the theory of evolution is of how we evolved. It's a theory, and it's not a fact that in that sense it did happen actually in that sense. That we did start off with animals, and over the time we did evolve. And from what I read last time is that even Charles Darwin, who invented the theory, he said it is a theory, and also they said that he was a believer, he was a Christian himself, and towards the end of his time, he actually what's the word? He said his theory is not valid. It needs to be checked. So that's what I read last time, that the argument came in. And in terms of the creation that we have, humans are evolving, we are changing. Yeah, and when we look in the history of the past of how humans were, they said that humans were very tall. They were very tall, very big. Like the people of Hud, they said they were so tall and strong that they used to build the houses on the mountain with their hands. They could be that tall that they could reach the mountains, or something like that. And when we look like we had some of these Buddhas or Buddhas in Bamiyan in Afghanistan, how tall they are, or we can see some of them. They said these represent the human of the past, some of them. So over the time, people have evolved, but Islamically, the idea that we started off the animals and we went into the human is not acceptable. It's not correct. They say this is a theory which is not correct. So, and other religions as well, they say we started off with humans, which was Adam and Eve, and from there we did evolve into different nations. But in Islam, we do have this idea that there was a point where some of the humans were turned into apes because of the actions that they did. So that is the similarities that we have between us. It could be because of that. Yeah. Any other questions?
I think as well, we wanted to sort fact of like differences between, you know, different races and ethnicities and different features. Like you could say that's a sort of evolution in itself. It doesn't necessarily mean that it all came from a sort of like an ancient primate sort of species that shares the same ancestors as chimpanzees.
So the evidence and proof is on adaptation, that some things have changed and adapted, but not on change of form.
Evolution within a species, the
Yeah.
genetic fabric has
Yeah.
changed and evolved within a species.
Within a species, right?
No
No cat
across
has ever
species.
become a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't deny that. We agree with that scientifically. But, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember one thing else is, if evolution happens, you know, and one thing evolves to another, then that means the previous parts should have gone extinct or it should change. So it should have evolved. So it's survival of the fittest. So those who are fit, they will survive, they will evolve into something new, and then the rest were unfit, so they get extinct. But we see still that some of those things that it has evolved, they still exist along with us on other things that have it evolved into. So that's something else to think about, that how can you still have the other versions of it in that sense.
So the other theory that is used sort of against it is the Big Bang theory as well.
Yeah.
But again, even if we do accept Big Bang, we will have to assume that there was a mass to start with, and you will still need a creator to create something
Yes.
within that mass. So the nothing to something is logically not acceptable.
Correct. Yes.
So all these things may have some flavor of truth, but obviously that could be compatible with
Yes.
religion.
Yeah, even the Big Bang can be compatible with religion. It is possible that it did start with the Big Bang, but then, as Sarali mentioned, there something should have caused that. You know, something cannot come out without a cause. It cannot start with nothing. You know, if that's true, then you should tell them that, you know, make something out of nothing. But it's not possible. I remember I had a discussion with someone about this, and he said that there was matter, and he said started with matter, and I said, how did matter come about? He said the matter was always there. So he says the matter is eternal for him. That's how he understands. The matter is eternal and it was always there. And then I think he mentioned like another particle of matter came, and then this collided and the Big Bang happened, and it went on to create.
Isn't there an ayah out there? I mean, going back to my question, not a big question. There's an ayah out there saying we created you from a clot of blood or something.
Yes.
Is that referring to the birth, or is that referring?
That's referring to birth.
That's referring to birth, not evolution.
No.
Like, okay, I was
No.
thinking of it.
Yeah. Anything else?
Although with that with blood and also creating from clay, that's more of a sense of like we die, we decompose, like our body's made up of changing. So there's sort of physical matter.
All right. Inshallah, we'll continue next week. Sorry, we went a little longer today. But Muhammad wa Ahl Bayt Muhammad sallallahu They had no question.